Hi there, this is Harry and welcome back to Advanced English Lessons with Harry, where I try to help you to get a better understanding of the English language. I help you with vocabulary and grammar, expressions, phrasal verbs, whatever it is that you need, we're here to help. And in this particular lesson, we're going to take a look at another news article. We tried this in a previous lesson and we got great reaction from it, and a lot of you said it was an easier way for you to learn English. So we've taken another article. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to read it a couple of times, highlight some words, and then give you the meaning and examples of how you can use them. Now, this particular article is taken from the Guardian newspaper, and it concerns one man called Mr. Elon Musk. So you've all heard of him by now. Some of you might also be driving his wonderful cars. And this man has been really, really successful. You know, the introduction of his cars has really challenged the old industry. And of course, introduction of electric vehicles makes that a lot easier. But he's also spent a lot of money, personal wealth in relation to sending space rockets into space to carry out experiments. And this particular article is all about a recent rocket that unfortunately took off, but within a very short space of time it had exploded and it didn't get too far. And we also know Mr. Musk from his recent investment in Twitter, where he purchased all the shares in Twitter, and now he owns that particular media site outright. And you have different views. I have my own views. I'm not so sure it's really such a good idea to allow such a powerful man to control that sort of information flow where it can be influenced, and we can certainly have influence on people in a big ways. But, you know, we all have our views and we can express our views whether we like it or whether we don't like it. Okay? But whatever you think, the man has been extremely successful, bit of a genius, and that's what the world needs. It needs a few geniuses from time to time to shake it up a little bit, to get things a little bit different. Okay, so let's look at this particular article, all right? So this article, as I said, is about these space rockets. So I'll read the article. I'll read it twice, and then I'll focus on the particular words that I've highlighted and give you my particular meaning to them. Okay, so as I said, it's from the Guardian newspaper. The largest and most powerful rocket ever built has blasted off from Texas, but blew up within minutes in a test flight that its makers, SpaceX, hope will be the first step on a human journey to Mars. It appeared that the two sections of the rocket system, the booster and cruise vessel, were unable to separate properly after takeoff, possibly causing the spacecraft to fail. It was not immediately clear whether the rocket exploded spontaneously or if the flight termination system was activated, a fail-safe that destroys the spacecraft to prevent it from veering too far off course. SpaceX had previously cautioned that the chances of success were low and that the aim of the test flight was to gather data regardless of whether the full mission was achieved. Employees at SpaceX cheered even after the rocket disintegrated. The uncrewed suborbital test marked the first fully stacked trial in which the Starship cruise vessel, which is designed to eventually carry up to 100 astronauts, was placed on top of the super heavy booster rocket, whose 33 Raptor engines provided the immense thrust needed. Almost as long as 3 passenger jets, the Mammoth spacecraft stands 10 meters taller than the Saturn V rocket that sent humans to the moon in 1969. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, gained the necessary approval last week from the Federal Aviation Administration for the launch to go ahead. Both the upper and lower segments of the system are designed to power themselves safely back to Earth for a soft landing so that they can be reused. Musk says the reusability of rockets makes spaceflight significantly cheaper than what NASA could offer. Unlike NASA, which attempts to avoid risk, SpaceX has a record of showing a willingness to have test flights explode, with Musk saying the private venture benefits from understanding what goes wrong. SpaceX built its own spaceport named Starbase on the Gulf of Mexico in Boca Chica, Texas, to launch its rockets. Several other starships are already in production for future tests. Musk said he developed Starship, previously named the BFR, in brackets, heavily hinted to mean big fucking rocket, close the brackets, so that humans can eventually become an interplanetary species. To do this, he intends to begin the colonization of Mars, which he said is needed to preserve humanity in case a planet-destroying event such as nuclear war or an asteroid strike wipes out life on Earth. End of story. So this is an article written and produced in the Guardian newspaper, specifically about Mr. Elon Musk, but not about his car industry, the Tesla, but about his space exploration and his willingness to spend his own money to build certain space rockets in his attempt to help the space venture and to find a place where we might be able to live. So I'll read it now the second time, okay? So, the largest and most powerful rocket ever built has blasted off from Texas but blew up within minutes in a test flight that its makers, SpaceX, hope will be the first step on a human journey to Mars. It appeared that the two sections of the rocket system, the booster and cruise vessel, were unable to separate properly after takeoff, possibly causing the spacecraft to fail. It was not immediately clear whether the rocket exploded spontaneously or if the flight termination system was activated, a fail-safe that destroys the spacecraft to prevent it from veering too far off course. SpaceX had previously cautioned that the chances of success were low and that the aim of the test flight was to gather data regardless of whether the full mission was achieved. Employees at SpaceX cheered even after the rocket disintegrated. The uncrewed suborbital test marked the first fully stacked trial in which the Starship cruise vessel, which is designed to eventually carry up to 100 astronauts, was placed on top of the super heavy booster rocket whose 33 Raptor engines provided the immense thrust needed. Almost as long as 3 passenger jets, the Mammoth spacecraft stands 10 meters taller than the Saturn V rocket that sent humans to the moon in 1969. Elon Musk, the founder of SpaceX, gained the necessary approval last week from the Federal Aviation Administration for the launch to go ahead. Both the upper and lower segments of the system are designed to power themselves safely back to Earth for a soft landing so that they can be reused. Musk says the reusability of rockets makes spaceflight significantly cheaper than what NASA could offer. Unlike NASA, which attempts to avoid risk, SpaceX has a record of showing a willingness to have test flights explode, with Musk saying the private venture benefits from understanding what goes wrong. SpaceX built its own spaceport, named Starbase on the Gulf of Mexico in Boca Chica, Texas, to launch its rockets. Several other starships are already in production for future tests. Musk said he developed Starship, previously named BFR, which heavily hinted to mean big fucking rocket, so that humans can eventually become an interplanetary species. To do this, he intends to begin the colonization of Mars, which he said is needed to preserve humanity in case a planet-destroying event such as nuclear war or an asteroid strike wipes out life on Earth. Okay, so that's the end of the particular article. So I'm going to now go through the words I've highlighted and explain what they mean. So we've got 13 particular words and phrases. Some of them are phrasal verbs, and I'll explain what they mean. So the first one, to blast off. So when something blasts off, like a space rocket, it leaves the ground, and the blast is that explosion, or when the petrol or the fuel is ignited and you hear the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off, and then that's when the rocket finally leaves the Earth. So to blast off means to get that thrust, that boost, to push the rocket up into space. Blast off. Second, blow up. Okay, now in this particular article, what we mean by blow up is that the rocket failed and there was a massive explosion within 4 seconds of leaving the Earth. So the whole rocket blew up and was destroyed. Yeah, so blow up is about fuel or powder, gunpowder, exploding or igniting and causing a massive explosion, and everything is destroyed. So in this case, it blew up. But you can also use blow up when you talk about, let's say, your bicycle tire. If you have a flat tire and there's no air, you have to blow it up. You don't mean you explode it, but you pump air into the tire so that you can cycle home. And also, if you're celebrating in a party and you're getting the balloons ready, you have to blow up the balloons. Put the air into the balloons to celebrate the birthday. Yeah, so to blast off, number 1, and number 2, blow up. Number 3, the word we have here is spontaneously. Just be careful with the pronunciation. Spontaneously, 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 spontaneously. And when something happens spontaneously, it happens without being planned. So in this case, the rocket exploded spontaneously. It just happened. Nobody was expecting it. So when something happens very suddenly, without being planned, then it can be spontaneous, a spontaneous reaction, spontaneously. So it's, of course, an adverb, spontaneously. Number 4, another phrasal verb, to veer off. Now make sure it's veer off, not fear. It's v sound, to veer off. And when you veer off, you leave the direction or the track in which you are going. So you alter your course, yeah? So to veer off. So if you're driving on the motorway, for example, you might veer off to the left or veer off to the right to avoid an accident on the motorway, to veer off to go onto another lane so that you can make the exit a little easier. So to veer off course, in which we're talking about here in the rocket, they tried to avoid it veering off, so they wanted to go on a certain trajectory into the air, but if there's some explosion, it might veer off left or right and then cause more problems. Okay, so to veer off means to change direction. Number 5, disintegrated. So the rocket disintegrated. So when something disintegrates, it breaks up into 1,000 pieces. So there was the explosion, and then followed by a great fire, and the whole rocket disintegrated. So very few parts and pieces left. So they were scattered everywhere, presumably in the ocean, but it totally disintegrated. So when something falls apart, it disintegrates, it falls into pieces. Good. Number 6, fully stacked. Now, fully stacked means everything in place. So in this case, they were using the rocket strapped to the back or attached to the back of another rocket. So this is what they mean, stacked, one on top of the other. So this was the first time that the rocket had been fully stacked. Previously, they had used bits and pieces, but not fully stacked. In this case, they had everything together, attached to each other. So fully stacked means complete and ready to take off, fully stacked. Number 7 is an adjective, immense. Something immense means really great, really big, yeah? So an immense occurrence. So for example, an earthquake could be an immense occurrence. So a huge thunder and lightning storm could be an immense meteorological experience, okay? So something immense means really, really big, yeah? So something can have an immense impact on your life, not just one impact, but something significant, something great. So passing an exam, failing an exam, the death of a parent, whatever it might be, can have an immense impact on your life. So here, this explosion had an immense impact on the plans. And another adjective that means big is mammoth. So mammoth, like the big elephants from the prehistoric ages there, the mammoths, yeah? So something mammoth means really, really big, huge, yeah? Okay, so a mammoth task means a very, very big task, a task that perhaps you will not be able to achieve, mammoth. To gain an approval, or to gain approval for something. So he went to the aviation authorities to gain approval, to get approval to launch his rocket. So when you gain approval, you get the permission to do it. Okay, so you gain their approval, you gain their trust, means to get something you didn't have before, to gain approval. And number 10, venture. A venture is something that you haven't tried before. A new venture could be a new business, for example, that you set up. This is a venture into space, so the space rocket going up to see how far it can go, and could it eventually take astronauts to the planet Mars? Well, that's a new venture that hasn't been tried or tested. So a venture is something new, something interesting, something never tried before, something risky, yeah? A risk venture. And then number 11, hinted. And we had in the article, heavily hinted. When we hint at something, we give some information to try and get people to take an interest. He hinted that he would retire. He didn't say that he was actually going to retire, but he hinted that perhaps he's tired and perhaps it would be time for somebody else to take over the business. So he hinted that some changes might take place. Okay, so when we hint, we give a little bit of information that might suggest what we are planning for the future. Number 12, to intend. When we intend to do something, it's our plan. We intend to take this further. We may not, but that's our plan, is to take it further. So we intend doing this. I intend writing to the school to complain. That's my plan. When I get home, I might think differently about it. I intend lodging a complaint to the police department about the way they treated me when they stopped me at the traffic lights. So it's your intention, yeah? You intend to do something. And then finally, number 13, to wipe out. Well, now it has a couple of meanings. So, if there was, as they talk in the article, about a nuclear strike that would wipe out lots and lots of people over a huge, vast area. So that would be to wipe out, to destroy. Okay, but we can simply write on the blackboard in school, and then the teacher wipes out what she wrote. Okay, so just uses a cloth, so just simply cleans the green or the blackboard in the schoolroom. But if you want to wipe out the population or generations, then you drop an atom or some other type of nuclear bomb explosion, and that will certainly wipe out millions of people. So that's quite drastic. But if you just want to wipe out the writing on the blackboard, you use a cloth. You might want to wipe out the records of your emails, so you delete some of your emails to wipe out. Okay, so there are words taken from the article: blast off, blow up, spontaneously, just be careful with the pronunciation, spontaneously. To veer off means to change direction. Disintegrated, fall into lots of little pieces. Fully stacked means everything on top of each other as needed. Immense, something huge. Mammoth, again, a huge task, mammoth task. To gain approval, so to get something that you hadn't received before, in this case, approval to launch the rocket. A venture, yes, some risk, some achievement, some new venture that you want to try, in this case, sending a rocket to Mars. Hinted, heavily hinted, so to tell people, yeah, I really am going to retire, or hinted that something might happen next week. To intend, what your intention is. I intend doing this. I intend doing that. I intend going to bed early. You might not get there early, but you intend doing that. And then finally, to wipe out the population by dropping a nuclear bomb or exploding a nuclear rocket, or to wipe out what's written on the blackboard. Then you just use a cloth and you clean the blackboard. So it's not so serious. Okay, so that's our article, and those are the words that I highlighted. Hopefully you get an understanding of the meaning from how I read it. What you should do if you can is read the article a couple of times. Again, make sure you understand the words, make sure you understand how they're used, and also listen out for intonation and pronunciation in relation to the words. And if you've enjoyed this and you want to get some more, please let me know and I'll happily record other articles for you. So this is Harry thanking you, and if you need to contact me, you can do so on www.englishlessonviaskype.com. Always happy to hear from you, and as always, remember to join me for the next lesson.